Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Garden Talks. In this video, I will be sharing some very valuable information. You might want to grab, a cup of tea and a journal to take some notes because it is going to be long, informative, and very valuable. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you all everything that you need to know about Queen Anne lace tincture and using it as a natural form of Plan B. So yes, there is an herb out there that exists and we have access to. Instead of using the man-made form of contraceptive known as Plan B, which by the way, not everybody has access to in the times that we're living in today. Instead of using that, you can turn to Queen Anne lace and tap into nature and its abundance and use it as a natural form of Plan B. It is very effective. I've been using it in my life and it's amazing. I'm here to share the information with you all. You can find timestamps to this video below since it is going to be long, and I want to get into a little bit about the background about this plant before I share with you all how you can use it as Plan B. Queen Anne lace is also commonly known as wild carrot. It also is known for a few other names, but wild carrot and Queen Anne lace are the most common. Bird's nest weed, bee's nest, devil's plague, garden carrot, bird's nest root, lace flower. Those are a few other names that this plant is less commonly known for. I love how this plant has the word queen in its name, at least the name Queen Anne lace, because it's, you know what I mean? It's out here to serve so many people just like that. It's amazing. All right, so this plant has a long historical use as an herbal ally for managing fertility. This wildflower herb is a member of the carrot family whose beautiful lacy white flowers can be seen along roadsides and in meadows throughout the United States. It is known as a natural morning after pill. Its seeds are believed to contain a potent anti-fertility agent, and for centuries, women have used them as a natural contraceptive. The oils within the wild carrot seeds are said to irritate the uterine lining, thus disrupting the implantation process of a potentially fertilized egg. I want to make a quick note that all of the information that I'm going to share is based on research through online, various articles, various scientific data, and also through books and just through research, okay, personal research. And I think it's really important that you do your own research as well. Another thing I want you to know is that if you look up how to make Queen Anne lace tincture online, you can't find the information anywhere. You can't find it anywhere. I don't know if it's being blocked or what. So do me a favor and like this video and subscribe so that we throw the algorithm off and everybody gets this information, okay? Another quick note, this entire topic about Queen Anne lace and natural forms of birth control and using herbs, for your health is going to be divided into a different video, okay? So this video is going to be all about Queen Anne lace. We're going to talk about where it grows, how to properly identify it, not confuse it with its poisonous twin, and how to use the tincture as Plan B. On my next video, I'm going to share information about how to make the tincture in glycerin, non-alcohol, and then also how to make it with alcohol, how to make a double extraction tincture, and then also other herbs that you can use as natural birth control. So again, make sure to stay tuned. I also say that because you need to make sure that you're following through with all of this information if you are truly wanting to bring herbs into your life for this kind of stuff. I'm going to read a segment of an article because I want to make this part very clear, okay? Queen Anne's lace is not a contraceptive, as it does not prevent ovulation, ejaculation, fertilization, or conception. Nor is Queen Anne's lace an abortive, as it does not disrupt an early pregnancy that is already well established and healthy. Rather, it disrupts normal hormonal shifts in the body that would enhance and develop healthy endometrial lining for a pregnancy to implant. It makes the uterus inhospitable to grow a pregnancy. Queen Anne's lace works as an implantation inhibitor. This means it prevents a fertilized egg from implanting and developing into a pregnancy. Got it? With that being said, this information is not intended for medical advice. I really mean that. I don't want someone to go out there and start taking Queen Anne lace in a irresponsible manner and then have a little accident and then blame it on this video or something. Do you know what I mean? So like, it's really important that you get all the information that you need. Take some notes because they don't teach you this information anywhere else. All right, so how do you get your hands on some Queen Anne lace, right? What if you want to make the tincture yourself or take the seeds? Because there's different ways to ingest this. You don't just take Queen Anne lace in the form of tincture. You can also have it with water, which I'll be sharing with you. But how do you get your hands on this, right? So you've probably seen Queen Anne lace flowers at one point in your life if you live in the United States. You have also probably confused Queen Anne lace with a weed, because we all do. I remember growing up and this thing would grow all over our backyard, our ditch, everything. It was everywhere and we always called it a weed, and it was so obnoxious. It was so obnoxious to have that thing everywhere. And it's just funny because because I started gardening and working with herbs at my mom's, and she had so many herbs. And you know, Queen Anne lace was always there, but I was just unaware. It's like, wow, I had all that medicine available to me, and it's like, you may have also seen Queen Anne lace in a flower arrangement, as it's commonly used in those. Queen Anne lace has a history of medicinal use. More than 2,000 years ago, they would prescribe crushed up Queen Anne lace to prevent pregnancies. It is highly recommended that women who are trying to conceive or are pregnant stay far away from this plant. They should avoid both the flower heads and the seeds. Over the years, this flower has also had a variety of other uses. This flower grows in 48 states, but it is not native to North America. It was brought here for medicinal purposes, and it has since spread across the country to grow wild, which I can see why, because I really have seen it in the most random places. It is listed as a weed rather than a native plant, and 14 states list Queen Anne's lace as an invasive species. I can imagine that it might disrupt other ecosystems. And it's a fact. You will often find Queen Anne lace growing in abandoned fields and lots, burned areas that are starting to recover, and other places where the ground has recently been disrupted. So you mean to tell me that we have natural plan B just growing out of the ground everywhere? Queen Anne's lace is commonly found along roadsides and meadows and in gardens. Depending on your location, it blooms May through August. If you spot what looks very much like a carrot popping up where you didn't plant any carrots, it's likely a wild carrot. It is a native of temperate regions of Southwest Asia and most of Europe, and now thrives around the world. Queen Anne lace is a biennial, which means that it has a 2-year cycle, like garden carrots. The first year, it grows on a low cluster of leaves. The second year, it shoots up a hairy flower stalk and then it dies. In the first year, it first displays leaves and shoots. In the second year, it begins to form small clusters of white flowers, which can self-pollinate or get help from bees, of course, and other pollinators. Each plant can produce over 40,000 seeds. That is a whole lot of natural Plan B that we can be making. While flowering times vary from region to region, you can usually spot the white flowers around mid to late summer. So right now in Oregon, we've had a very hot summer. It's the end of August, it's about to be September, and I've seen Queen Anne lace literally everywhere. It's been blooming everywhere. So I don't know if it's just this part of the West Coast, or this summer since it's been warm, but they're blooming everywhere. So you can find these biennials in full bloom during their second year, from spring going into fall. Also, this plant has quite a few stories about how it got its name, but no one really knows how. One legend of how the flower got its name states that Queen Anne II pricked her finger, causing a drop of blood to fall into the lace, reminiscent of the flower's red center. Queen Anne lace features delicate lace-like flowers. It is associated with beauty. Many women added the flower to their baths in hopes of attracting love. Alright, so how do you get access to Queen Anne lace, the flower or the seeds, if it is so readily available throughout the US? How should you harvest it, right? So again, really important that you take notes, because Queen Anne lace actually has a twin, a very similar looking flower that is actually very poisonous and you should stay away from. With that being said, if you plan to harvest it yourself, it's really important that you learn how to properly identify the plant when you're out there in nature. You can also find organic dry seeds of wild carrot online, such as Etsy, maybe Amazon, but because it is so readily available out there to you, I mean, depending on like the time of the year, obviously, then I feel like you may as well learn how to make it yourself because it's more cost effective. With that being said, it's really important that you learn how to identify Queen Anne lace. Queen Anne's lace and carrots, are they related? This plant gets the wild carrot name for a good reason. Let's start off with carrots. So is Queen Anne lace and carrots related? Well, yes. It gets the name wild carrot for a very good reason, because both of these plants are in the same family. Queen Anne's lace and the carrots we eat today are related. The flower produces a carrot-like taproot, and in fact, modern and much more delicious. Carrots were originally developed from the Queen Anne's lace. They were simply bred to produce a tastier root. Though Queen Anne's lace is considered the feral version of the plant, while today's carrots are considered selectively bred cousins. If you've ever picked the flowers of Queen Anne's lace, you've probably noticed a very carroty smell on your hands. If you're planning to pick Queen Anne's lace, learning to identify the lookalikes is crucial because some of them are dangerous. There's actually 3 main lookalikes of Queen Anne lace, and I mentioned one is very poisonous. Both poison hemlock and giant hogweed are poisonous to humans, pets, and livestock when ingested. It's best to avoid cow parsley as well. Giant hogweed and cow parsley also have a sap inside the leaves and stalks that causes burns to the skin. Additionally, even touching the poison hemlock plant may cause a skin reaction in some people. The wild carrot closely resembles the poisonous hemlock, and physical contact with poisonous hemlock can cause weird things, such as phytophotodermatitis or contact dermatitis in individuals with allergies.
Absolutely beautiful. Love is absolutely beautiful. God is absolutely beautiful. Love.
Now that you know how to properly identify this plant, let's get into its medicinal uses as a natural form of the morning after pill. Its seeds have been used for centuries as a contraceptive, and they were prescribed by physicians as sort of a morning after pill. It is still used by some women to help manage fertility. A teaspoon of seeds is thoroughly chewed, swallowed, and washed down with a glass of water or juice, starting just before ovulation, during ovulation, and for 1 week thereafter. Alright, so in my next video, I'll show you how to actually make the Queen Anne lace tincture, but basically, once it's brown and dry, you can sort of rub the flour together until the seeds start to fall out. You can then rinse the seeds, air dry them on a flat surface, and then store them in a mason jar that is secure. So as I mentioned, the tincture is not the only form to take this, though it is more potent. It can be more potent than taking just the seeds, especially if you are making the tincture yourself and you know that it's potent, or you buy it somewhere online, such as my Etsy shop, then you know that stuff is good. So not only as a tincture, but also the seeds can be grounded or brewed as a tea and taken for several days after having unprotected sex. And again, in contrast to the Plan B man-made contraceptive, these seeds don't block fertilization of the egg. They prevent the fertilized egg from attaching to the uterus wall. I want to make something very clear. When you are incorporating natural herbs for your reproductive health, it's really important that as a woman, you are informed and educated on your personal menstrual cycle, not your days of menstruating, your menstrual cycle, right? Your entire cycle, because you need to be aware of your fertile window. There are only about 5 to 7 days of the month where you can actually get pregnant, right? So it's really important that you use another method during this fertile window, or several methods, or even if that method is abstinence, so that this actually works. Personally, I haven't been on birth control for years, like 5 years, and I never will be. I have tried the pill and the Nuva ring, I think it's called. That was years ago, right? So I got off of that, and I've been using herbs for about a year now, and they're very, very effective. But herbs are not the only thing that I use as natural birth control, as natural protection. There are other methods that I use. There are various methods that I use, and I just combine them all, and it's very effective for me. There's this article that I read, and I found it really interesting. I really want to share a segment of it. So it says, I like to think of it as solely being in a relationship with yourself. When taking Queen Anne's lace, we're not endeavoring to affect a conception, a potential life. Rather, we are affecting our own bodies. We are withdrawing our consent to be a parent at the time and to grow a pregnancy. It's personal and it affects us alone. Working with Queen Anne's lace, like working with all plant medicine, is an adventure in relationship, in self-awareness, and in imperfection. There are very few scientific studies done on Queen Anne's lace, even fewer with humans participating, even fewer with standardized dosing and seeking specific information about effectiveness. Historical use, anecdotes, and small community studies give us a basic picture of what to expect when working with Queen Anne's lace. Small cohort studies show 90 to 100% effectiveness with perfect use and perfect intention, with a few big disclaimers. These studies were done on such small selections of populations they are not generalizable to people as a whole. Plants and people come in huge varieties. Just because some small studies showed effects on some people with some Queen Anne lace doesn't mean you and the plants you're working with will respond the same. Herbal medicine has so many variables it's difficult, and some would say unethical, to bring it into the lab. No matter how much we scientifically study menstruation, ovulation, conception, fertilization, implantation, herbalism, and more in a lab, we can never wholly understand the mystery. Even those with predictable cycles and impeccable fertility awareness can note times of unusual fertile symptoms and unpredictable conceptions. Even with perfect science, human error exists. That's all a rambling disclaimer to say nothing works perfectly for everyone. Proceed with your own levels of personal awareness and risk when working with your own fertility. Very well said. That's why I had to share it word per word. All right, so Queen Anne's lace is not a daily contraceptive. She needs to be introduced and then withdrawn surrounding a specific potential fertilizing event on a specific schedule. Queen Anne lace, in whatever manner you choose to work with, should be used surrounding a potential fertilizing event. Okay, so basically, let's say you had sex, unprotected sex, and you had a little accident, then based upon your menstrual cycle, whether you should have been doing that to begin with based on your natural cycle, then you can bust out your Queen Anne lace tincture that you got from my online shop. Or you can make yourself a little tea with the seeds and such. I'll go more into it. Right after your accident, right? So you take whatever form you're gonna have with the given measurements I'm going to share. And then you wait a few hours, you wait 8 hours, then you do the same thing again. And you wait another 8 hours, then you do the same thing again. Optimally, you take Queen Anne lace in 3 doses. So the first dose is going to be 8 to 12 hours surrounding the potential fertilization. In other words, after you have had unprotected sex and you had a little accident or whatever, that is then right after when you would take your first dose. The second dose, you're going to take 8 hours after your first dose. And then the third dose, you're going to take 8 hours after your second dose. You see? It's very easy. So after your little accident, then you take, boom, your Queen Anne lace in whatever form you want it. And then you wait 8 hours. You set a little timer for yourself on your phone, your cellular device, and then You take your second dose, and then you set another timer for your 8 hours, and then you take your third dose, and then you stop. Then you withdraw. These doses should be spaced over a minimum of 24 hours and an absolute maximum of 72 hours. Again, these doses should be based around a potentially fertilizing event, aka after having unprotected sex and maybe he came in you and therefore you need a backup, you need plan B. Not to be used daily and not only at a specific times of a cycle. Doses can be any of the following.
It's absolutely beautiful. Love is absolutely beautiful.
It's important to note that if you're taking the seeds, you take the seeds for 7 days after your accident. As opposed to the tincture, it's just those 3 doses every 8 hours. That is because the tincture is going to be more potent. All right, so it seems the best way to use Queen Anne's lace tincture is only during your fertile time, not during your entire cycle, especially if you're having sex often. So you take the 3 doses of the 30 drops every 8 hours, but make sure to stay consistent. For example, if you're taking the first dose in tincture form, make sure that you complete your second dose and your third dose using tincture, not switching up and taking like a tea. Use the fertility awareness method and track your basal temperature. It is recommended that you check your basal temperature in conjunction with this so that you can take the tincture when your temperature spikes. And this is using the fertility awareness method. I'm going to read off of this article. It says, Herbalist Phyllis stresses the importance of giving progesterone for 3 days and then withdrawing to stimulate the shedding of the uterine lining. Herbalist Robin thinks that taking Queen Anne lace tincture and then removing it changes the estrogen/progesterone balance temporarily, changing the internal environment enough to make it inappropriate for conception. Herbalist Schuler thinks that it might be removing progesterone so that the environment isn't likely for an egg to implant, and it is most important, therefore, to take wild carrot after ovulation. Herbalist Ember's theory is that taking wild carrot could temporarily block progesterone synthesis or progesterone receptors in the uterus, or both. When taken over the long term, the uterus could increase receptors to account for the reduction in progesterone binding, which could be why wild carrot loses effectiveness if taken daily. Even though Queen Anne's lace tincture causes physical changes, working with the herb for contraception is based on a spiritual relationship with the plant. It is not recommended that you take Queen Anne's lace if you are lactating, while taking other hormonal medications, if you do not have a regular or predictable cycle, if you recently stopped taking birth control, or any other hormonal medication. If you notice that the tincture causes breast tenderness or changes in your menstrual cycle, then you should stop taking it. Hey, we made it through this session. Thank you so much for coming to class. Please remember to subscribe and share this video with a homie so that they also have this valuable information. I believe that I covered everything that I wanted to cover, Queen Anne lace, super amazing and valuable herb to have in your apothecary if you don't already have it. Now you know how to properly identify it. If you're going to go harvest it, you know where it grows. If it's in your region, you know that you can also buy the seeds online. I'm going to show you how to make a tincture in my next videos. You know the doses, how to actually take this as a plan B, the protocol that you follow, and what the protocol that I shared is the one that I personally take and that I have been using. I know for a fact that it works. Again, I personally combine many other methods of managing my fertility and my reproductive health, which I will also be sharing with in another video. That's everything that I have for you today. Please make sure to drop any comments or questions that you may have below and I will get back to them. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for connecting, and I hope that this was of value to you.
It's absolutely beautiful. Love.